Hey there, friends. A little bit more information surfacing regarding the Lakewood megachurch shooting in Houston, Texas a couple of days ago. One of the main things that I want to talk about is there's been a lot of speculation about Moreno, who is from El Salvador. Now, it was first reported that Moreno entered the country illegally, which would make sense because why wouldn't you? Why go through the trouble of coming through here legally whenever you can easily get through here illegally? There was a report that came out yesterday from a Sarah Gonzalez, and I think Sarah is a reporter from The Blaze. Let me just say this. I will give you a little bit more information after this news report, but I don't support what Sarah is saying right here, and I'll tell you why in a second.
If she in fact was from El Salvador, why does she have a voting record? Why is she listed as voting in the 2020 election? And if we could go to that other picture there, yes, there is her voting record, Janess Moreno. I won't show you the address, but it's there. And she's voted in the 2020 election, but we've already seen that she's from El Salvador, and we've already seen her extensive rap sheet. So how in the world would she have voted in the 2020 general election? I think Harris County might have some explaining to do.
So Sarah is pretty convinced that there's the implication, at least, that Moreno was from El Salvador illegally, and I guess she's assuming she was still here illegally because she voted in the 2020 election. I want to make this very clear. There is no clarification in Sarah's story that she was here illegally. She provides no proof. She does provide proof of a voting record, but not of her being here illegally. And the reason why I say that is because there are reports that Moreno was picked up by ICE. That usually indicates you're here illegally. Now, if it's many, many years ago, which in this case Moreno was picked up by ICE many, many years ago, she still could have citizenship by now. So I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm trying to be fair here. She could have been an American citizen, or she may not have been an American citizen. But the way Sarah Gonzalez's report reads, it says just because she's from El Salvador, that she automatically must be here illegally. Again, it's very possible she got here illegally, but she could have obtained citizenship. I just want to be fair. I'm not saying she was currently here illegally and that she voted illegally. You'll also notice in Sarah's video when it regards the voting status that it does say, notice it's got a check mark. Look at the symbol to the bottom left, the legend, where it says voted at polls/mail ballot. I don't know why those two would be together because they're clearly should be separate. You're either present at the polls or you're not, and you mailed it in. My guess is she probably mailed it in. Simply speculation, but we know how the mail-in votes are more fraudulent in many cases across this country. So again, just to be clear, just because this person was obtained by ICE does not mean she voted illegally, but it also, I'm not stating that she did not. That's still up in the air right now. We just don't know that. A lot of people have sent me that. That's why I want to make sure I reported on that. Now, one thing I came across in digging was I found Janice's LinkedIn account, and there was some interesting stuff on the LinkedIn account. You'll notice on a post 1 year ago, it states, if you know who I am and if you Google me, one will see that things I have accomplished could have not been, that's incorrect, been accomplished if one was an undocumented alien. Like she's basically defending the fact that she is documented. Defamation lie number 1. I will follow up with my ceremony picture to prove just that. Ceremony picture meaning when she graduated or became a citizen of the United States, there would be a ceremony photo with the certificate that she received whenever she graduated from that and became a U.S. citizen. Now, to be clear, I'm not stating that she is or isn't a citizen, but she is a year ago in defense of herself stating that she was a citizen and went through the process based on this post. And I will get to more of this in a minute, but this post is targeted to her mother-in-law, who obviously they have a lot of friction there. That's the Jewish rabbi that I mentioned yesterday. She continues on, perhaps TREC, the Real Estate Commission in Texas, made a huge mistake perhaps. Could it have been the FBI whom ran and confirmed the fingerprints, which verified my legal status to them? Perhaps it was them, right? So she's very adamant stating that she is an American citizen based on just this post right here. Now that link down at the bottom takes you to the mother-in-law, Dr. Wally Carranza. This is the Jewish rabbi that has been in a lot of the news talking about how we need red flag gun laws. This is definitely an ignorant chick right here. Does not understand how things work in the mind, although she's blaming mental health for what's going on. Now, apparently the gun-related issue has been a debate for quite some time regarding Moreno, because you'll notice these two posts are from 1 year ago. The top one says, perhaps it was the mistake done from the DPS agency who ran my background and gave me the right to own all my guns. And the next one says, accusation of illegal guns is a defamatory allegation, lie number 2. So this person, Moreno, is clearly setting up, if nothing else, documentation of supposed lies that the mother-in-law is making against her. Now, before I move on to the husband and the rabbi mother of his, the mother-in-law of the accused shooter, I want to point something out really quick that I spoke, let's just call it insensitively, yesterday in my video. When I put the video out referring to the ex-husband, I made the comment that he had filed for or made charges of spousal abuse or something along that line about Moreno abusing him. And I made some remarks about his man car being taken away. I shouldn't have made those remarks, and I apologize to anybody out there who has, and I'm not saying this from a woke standpoint, I'm speaking to you guys the way I like to get things right and the way I expect to be treated. And I have never been exposed, husband or wife, whether it be my parents or my current marriage. I've been with my wife for 33 years. We don't raise our hands to each other. I've never hit her. She's never hit me. I never saw my parents hit each other. Personally, I have never been exposed to any kind of spousal abuse. So when I will tell you the reason why I had, let's just call it a burr in my butt regarding this guy, and I felt the need to speak down to him, which was incorrect, but I want to tell you why. I had already read where this person was a sex offender, and he had relationship somehow, I don't know how, but sexually something happened when he was 18 years old between him and a 12 or 13-year-old. Okay, that is wrong. If he had been 18 and the girl was 17, I'll give you a pass. Not when you're 18 and she's 12. So I already had in my mind that this guy was a dirtbag. So I had a preconceived image of him in my mind already. So when it came up that he was accusing his ex-wife of spousal abuse, I made fun at it and said he was having his man car taken away. I shouldn't have done that. Again, I did that because I was angry at him, so I felt the need to make fun of him at that point. That wasn't right, because what it does is it sends that same message that I don't care about anybody else out there who is being abused by their wife. And that's not true. But that's how it came across, and I would have taken it the same way had I been in some of you guys' shoes. I know that spousal abuse, where wives abuse the husbands or girlfriends abuse the boyfriends, is a thing. I have not witnessed it. I have not experienced it, so I can't speak on a personal level on that. But I want you guys to know that for those of you that I might have offended, and I mean this, I'm not saying this facetiously, very seldom will I apologize for what I say, because usually I think out what I say. I didn't think this out. Just because I was upset with this guy being a sex offender was no reason to throw everybody else that might be experiencing the same type of spousal abuse under the bus. And for that, I do apologize. A lot of you guys have reached out to me, and rightfully so. I am not offended by anyone that has said this is wrong or what you said. Again, I'm not trying to be woke here. I just did not realize how prevalent this was. And some people made a really good point that in many cases that a female spouse might feel like she can get away with abusing the man, the husband or boyfriend, because usually law enforcement is going to take the side of the female whenever they call. So if he strikes back, he's usually the one that will go to jail. And you know what? I see that. I see instances of that. And I can see the reluctance of the man to even the score, if you want to call it back. Because in this case, what they're claiming is that he was abused, that she would throw keys at him and that she would throw cans of vegetables at him. That's the two types of abuse that he reported that she was doing to him. So again, for anybody that was offended out there, from the bottom of my heart, I genuinely apologize. I did not mean to throw everybody into the same category, because that's not typically how I think. So that was my bad on that. But let's go on and talk about this guy. He was a dirtbag. Let's not talk about his abuse thing, but he was definitely a dirtbag. This guy is in jail, and yes, it does appear that it was a 12-year-old that he was having some kind of relations with. And Marino actually posts that here. Now, I have no proof of that, so I'm going based off of what she said. But if she's telling this rabbi, there's a way to confirm that. So I'm sure she's not just saying that. In other words, the rabbi, if she really wanted to know, she could have found the facts on this. So I find it unlikely that Marino would have made this up. But you'll notice that she says, this rabbi, and she links to the mother-in-law's LinkedIn post, thinks that because her son committed the offense at the age of 18 and the girls were of age 12 to 13 makes it right. So it sounds like there might have been two girls involved here. And it looks like the mother of the accused knew this was happening, because it looks like Marino is saying that the mother-in-law was stating that it was okay because supposedly these girls were of age at the age of 12 and 13, which they are not. She goes on to say, how can one be ethical in believing that it makes it okay? This is the same person that perhaps has given you life coaching advice. So again, I want to make that very clear that it appears that this conversation on LinkedIn was somewhat of a battle between Marino and the mother-in-law. And this was just another thing that it looks like both parties knew the information on. She just basically spreading this to people outside of their little circle to let them know that the ex-husband was probably a little bit of a dirtbag dealing with 12 and 13-year-old little girls, and that the rabbi mother was privy to that same information and was okay with it. You'll note that also in one of the posts that she makes, it says, when one gets married, one must be honest about background, correct? If one has been lied, abused, and defrauded by one whom has not given all truthful facts about one's identity. So it sounds like the ex-husband did not disclose this information to Marino whenever they got married. So that might have been a bit of a point of contention as well. Now, finally, there was some exclusive video that came out yesterday, and it's from the neighbor's house directly next to Marino the morning of the actual shooting. This was hours before she drove to the Osteen Church and attempted to murder people. So this is actual footage of Marino as she's getting her car, her vehicle ready. And you'll notice in one of these pictures here that she's got it backed up to the garage and a tarp is placed around the open area so you cannot see what she's doing, going in and out of that vehicle. Now, the last thing that I want to mention, and it's a little bit of a curveball here, is I had noticed yesterday in doing some research that Marino had made at least one donation to the Osteen Church, the Lakewood Church that she went to shoot up. And in doing some further digging, it would appear that her mother, she was also on the outs with her very own mother, Marino's mother, not just the mother-in-law, but also Marino's own mother. And her mother attended these Spanish services at the Osteen Church. Now, there is no proof one way or the other that she might have been there. I don't know if she was there or not, and nobody is reporting that. But she was known to take part in the Spanish services, and she was a member of that church. So now, as far as a motive goes, it's looking a little bit more like maybe she was going there to do harm to her mother. Along that same line, I would like to point out that if you'll remember, before she was finally ended and deleted there at the scene, she did make some anti-Semitic posts, and so I think it was writings and some comments about anti-Semitism. I found it a little bit ironic that the rabbi Jewish mother said that her arriving at the church and attempting to shoot it up had nothing to do with Judaism. And I'm thinking to myself, well, your daughter-in-law is completely contradicting that, talking about Judaism. at the scene of the crime where she was taken out. So the mother-in-law is clearly not thinking very good or just trying to deflect or whichever. Remember, this is the same mother-in-law that said if we'd have had a red flag gun law that none of this would have ever happened. And we know that's not true either. So just more craziness, guys. Weird stuff in this story. The media is slowly backing away from this. Slowly backing away from this. They don't want a whole lot to do with this one, because they can't check off the right boxes at this point, because nobody was killed, yet the 7-year-old boy who was used as a human shield by this dirtbag was shot in the head and is not doing good and is likely to pass away. Shot in the brain, actually, more specifically. So the media is having a tough time with this one. AR-15, good box. Somebody might die, good box. None of the other boxes they want to check, they can check. In fact, they're checking boxes they never wanted to check to begin with.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
He's so horrible.